Hello everyone. Oh, got to take this down. This is from my last video. These are about the pictographs and all the magic that the Israelites were involved in, which became the Christian church that they were involved in it. But for a moment I'll just show you here this particular pictograph in the middle. This pictograph you will see is a heart. And you'll see that, you'll typically see a picture of Jesus or the supposed Jesus surrounding it, but it's all part of the same magic that involved all their pictographs. And actually, if I show you on the outside here, very outside, there are 12 pictographs, and those represent the zodiac or the apostles, the followers of Yeshua HaMashiach or Jesus Christ, whatever you want to call him. But this video is about Israelite slavery. And I have no doubt some of that magic was used, involved in the Israelite slavery. But what I would like to discuss here is, what is Israelite slavery? It could be considered a more complex type topic. But let's start at the basics. Let's start right at the government. Right at the government. That's where we'll start. You want to know why we're going to start there? Because you should be able to relate to it, because if you live in the United States of America, your government is the new Israelite terrorist society that terrorizes its citizens. You ought to be able to relate to that. If not, there's nothing I can help you with. But in the ancient nation of Israel, they too were a terrorist society. In their society, they had priests. They had priests for long ago. They had religious leaders. That was the highest level of terrorism that occurred. Now, in Israel, they had a place known as the Lake of Fire. Now, that may sound familiar to you if you're a Bible reader, because the Lake of Fire is a reference to where the people of the damned, or the damned people, are going to end up. That's where they're going to end up, thrown in the Lake of Fire, and Satan's going to be thrown in the Lake of Fire. But go way back in time to ancient Israel, and the Lake of Fire was basically a trash dump that burned, constantly had fires going on there. But what was the trash that they threw there? Well, one of the big things that they threw there was political prisoners that they had murdered and thrown to burn on the heap in the Lake of Fire. That's why when the Lake of Fire was written about originally, it had some real meaning to it. It had some real meaning to it, because it was a threat. It was a threat that you were a person of political means that was against the establishment, and we're talking about ancient Israel, and you would be killed by them, and you would be thrown in the Lake of Fire. Their terrorism reached further than just political people that were against the nation of Israel, because in actuality, the nation of Israel was the nation of Canaan, was the land of Canaan. Israel was just a political movement. That's all it was. It was a whole bunch of Canaanites that were in and around society, and they did their little terrorist acts to scare people, and they gained control over everything, and they terrorized. That's what Israel has always been about. Always, from the beginning. If you read the story of Abraham taking Isaac to the land of the razor, I know you would have to read Hebrew to see that what he had done was he took his son to the land of the razor. The land of the razor was where they did murderous blood sacrifices. Now you might say, well, that's the place where they sacrificed animals. They sacrificed people there too. They sacrificed people there too. And they did it to terrorize people, to scare them, to put what they would call Jehovah Jireh on them. Now you're told Jehovah Jireh has a certain meaning. Jehovah Jireh? That means fear of Yahweh. Now people say, well, that's good, that's healthy, that's what we're about, that's what our religion's about. Oh, it is. That is exactly what it's about. But do you think it's right what had occurred? Use your brain. For one moment, use your brain and your heart. Use your brain and your heart and think about it. Would it be right for a person to do something like that to their child? To take them to that place? That place of murder? Because, hey, they can say all day long that it's a place of sacrifice and they do this for their God. But in our civil society, we know that was murder. And every single one of those children that were killed was murdered. It wasn't a sacrifice, it was murder. Okay? And the Israelites did it as they were Canaanites and as they were Israelites, they did it. Now, if you look in the land of Jerusalem, there's a place called Tel Megiddo. That place is the abomination that makes desolation. If you look at it nowadays, it's desolate. If you were to be there during the time of its operation, it was an abomination. There have been excavations done there, and there have been vessels that have been found with children's ashes and bones and little bits of debris in there from what you could call cremation, but that was a burnt offering. And that was done by the Israelites, and it's not disputed. So let's get that straight. You know, if you people want to get up on your high horse, say, oh, we're Israelites and we don't believe in that, and we don't believe in that, your people did. And that is exactly what they did. And that is exactly why you're in the predicament you are in now. And you keep making excuses for what they've done instead of denouncing what they have done. That's a major problem. That shows what side of the fence you're on. You know, I got people pointing fingers at me and saying, hey, white man, we're Israelites, and we're the dark men. Damn right you're the dark men. And it has nothing to do with the skin tone of yourself. It has nothing to do with that. Because there are dark men that are white, there are dark men that are red, there are dark men that are yellow, and there are dark men that are black. And it has to do with the evilness inside you. That's the darkness that's inside you. And you keep making excuses for what your forefathers have done instead of denouncing what they have done. And that's where you've gone wrong. And that's where you have gone wrong. This Israelite slavery that I'm talking about, it's very active in the United States of America. Excuse me. And it has been. It was implemented by the international bankers through the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. It was continued and put into its full effect in 1933. Yeah, that's when the Social Security Act was made. That's when welfare was started. See, that's one of the things about Israelite slavery is this is the way it works. They con people into it to get them into it first. Okay? First they con them. It seems like an agreeable situation and it works out for people. And they do what's called a bondman. Now the slave, who is the bondman, gets all his needs met for him. He gets housing, he gets food, he gets clothing. Whatever he may need. He gets his needs met. But his labor, his produce, goes to the master. Does it sound familiar? Does it sound like a system that we have in place in the United States of America? Because it should. Because that's exactly what it is. Our welfare system that goes on in the United States of America is supposed to be that guarantee to make sure that everybody is taken care of with their very basic needs. It's a bureaucracy level because this is much bigger than it ever was in Israel. Much bigger in size and scope and shape. All right? So, we're so-called free men, or are we bondmen? Well, look up what people are talking about your straw man. And you can see how people are writing about how the Social Security card and the Social Security number that was issued to people at their birth, how it's all done in capital letters, and that's to show the legal effect of a bondman, okay? let's get one thing straight. They're telling you that information. They're telling you that information to con you into it, okay? Because they still have to psychologically condition you to accept it. So what they're trying to do is say that, well, this is legal. I'm going to tell you it's not even legal. And you want to know how it's not even legal? I'm going to tell you. It's a very simple, basic legal concept. When a person has a contract, because that's what they're claiming, this is a contractual agreement. When a person has a contract, there has to be what is called a meeting of the minds. And with a meeting of the minds, that means both parties on either side have to be in agreement as to what is occurring, what is happening, what the contract is about. That's why when you go to buy a car, or you go to mortgage your house, or you do something of that nature, the salesman or the broker, he always talks in vague terms. So that way he has one concept in his mind, you have another concept in your mind, right? But he's the so-called expert. Then you go seek expert advice from your expert, and everything gets changed around a little bit, but this guy gets a good profit out of the deal because that's all he was interested in anyhow, along with his banker buddy over on the other side that's taking care of you and beating you in the head and submitting you under this so-called authority. And well, the way that people have been trained, they just, yeah, that's the way it is, that's legal, that's the way it's supposed to be. Well, that's because they've been fooled. But what we're talking about is this Israelite slavery thing, and how this story of the straw man is being used to condition people to accept what is coming. We're not there yet. We're not at the place where they're trying to take you to the land of the razor. That's where they're looking to take you, to the land of the razor, mister. Or Mrs. or Ms. or whatever it is that you are, whoever's watching this, or whoever might watch this. They're looking to take you to the land of the razor. And you're supposed to be happy that they don't kill you. But they might kill you. But again, I'm getting off track. I apologize. I kind of get off track sometimes from what it is that I want to say as to how the conversation or the topic of the video gets going in the direction. But this was all about Israelite slavery and their terrorism. The Israelites were the original documented terrorists. And the reason why I say they're documented terrorists, see, you already have this condition in your mind of what you think a terrorist is because of the media. You think a terrorist is one political group that goes after another political group, and they do things like they light off bombs in the other jurisdiction. That's not the kind of terrorist I'm talking about. I'm talking about Israelite terrorists. They terrorize their own people with this stuff. They terrorize their own family members with this stuff. They used to murder, which they call blood sacrifice to their God, of their children, of their firstborn, for example. Take their firstborn and they'd offer it as a burnt offering blood sacrifice. And as an example to the other children. Are you understanding what they did? This is what they did. This is how the Israelites ran their families. This is how the Israelites ran their community. Because after all, they were really Canaanites. Anyhow, because you would say, wow, Israelites aren't like that. The book says they're not. Well, no, the book says that they did everything that they said that they weren't supposed to do. And the reason why they did that is because they weren't who they were making believe that they were in the writings. In the writings. The people who put the writings together were making believe that the Israelites were something else, even though at the same time admitting what they did. Change has to come. Change. And that's not what I'm seeing coming out of, well, the forefront of people starting these Israelite groups. They want to go back to the old ways. Sorry, the old ways are already going in Israel now. If you want to be part of the old ways, okay, go back there and claim your land. Go back there and claim your land in Israel. Go ahead, go. If you have a God that's supposed to support you and you are the Israel, then go there. Go there. If not, shut up. Because you're a liar. You're a liar. And you're looking to terrorize the good people in whatever land that you inhabit now. And that's what the Israelites did before. And that's what you're looking to do now. And they were Satan worshippers. They were evil. They were dark. They were demented. You want to know why they were demented? Because they were inbreeders. If you read about them, you'd know what they were really like and what they were really about. These religious leaders that did the sacrifice, the Kohanim, even till this day, you'll hear people talk about the people that are in Israel now saying that their bloodline comes from the Kohanim. That's from inbreeding. That's why they're so friggin' demented in the head. Anyhow, I've gone enough off track here from what I want to do in the video. I'm just going to end this. Because you know something? People don't listen. But I still have to share the information.